Most people, if they think about sperm whales at all, picture Moby-Dick, a big white whale ramming a ship, a symbol of nature's fury, obsession, and everything humans have projected onto the sea. But here is the animal behind the myth. A predator with a brain 6 times the size of yours. An acoustic system so powerful its clicks register at 230 decibels, louder than a jet engine at takeoff, loud enough that, in theory, the sound alone could kill you. It dives to depths where the pressure would crush a submarine hull, hunts prey it cannot see in water that has never known light, and surfaces 90 minutes later as if nothing happened. And between populations, its click patterns differ so sharply that biologists have started calling them dialects. No single one of those facts is a story. The story is that they all belong to the same animal. Because sperm whales are not merely unusual. They are what happens when evolution takes a warm-blooded, air-breathing mammal, an animal that by every reasonable standard belongs on land, and rebuilds it piece by piece into a deep ocean killing machine, until the result is an organism so over-specified for its environment that almost nothing about it resembles anything else alive. Every impossible feature of the sperm whale is an answer to the same impossible question. How do you hunt in total darkness, at crushing depth, and come back alive? This is World Untangled, and today we're pulling apart the most over-engineered predator the ocean has ever produced. Two kilometers down, the pressure is roughly 200 times greater than it is at the surface. That is where sperm whales hunt. Not as an emergency, not as a record attempt, as their ordinary working day. To understand what that means, imagine the weight of an elephant focused onto a patch of skin no bigger than a postage stamp. Your chest would not rise. Your lungs would not inflate. This is the environment a sperm whale enters on one breath, dozens of times a day, for a lifespan that can exceed 70 years. There is no light at that depth. Sunlight begins to fade at around 200 meters. By 1,000, the water is a perfect, unbroken black. The temperature hovers near freezing, and the pressure is simply unbearable. This is the largest habitat on Earth by volume. It is also, for any warm-blooded animal, a death sentence. Sperm whales do not visit this place. They live in it. They spend over 70% of their lives either descending into it or climbing back out. Every other deep-diving mammal treats the abyss as one tool in a larger kit. Sperm whales have no larger kit, which means the body that performs that job has had to be rebuilt, tissue by tissue, to survive conditions it was never meant to meet. Start with the breath. A human scuba diver goes down breathing compressed air. Under pressure, nitrogen dissolves into the blood, and tissues rise too fast, and that nitrogen turns back into bubbles, like gas bursting out of a bottle. Those bubbles can block circulation, damage tissue, and in severe cases, cause paralysis or death. This is decompression sickness, and it is one of the great limits on deep diving for any air-breathing animal. A sperm whale has solved the problem by refusing to play the game at all. As it descends, its rib cage compresses, its lungs fold inward. Air is forced out of the alveoli, the tiny sacs where oxygen crosses into blood, and into the rigid upper airways where no exchange can happen. By a few hundred meters down, the whale's lungs are functionally empty. It is no longer breathing in any meaningful sense. The nitrogen never enters the bloodstream. But a lungless animal still needs oxygen, so the whale carries it in the muscles. Its muscles are saturated with myoglobin, an oxygen-binding protein, at concentrations roughly 10 times higher than in human tissue. The protein is so densely packed that the muscle itself turns almost black. It stores its oxygen in its flesh. The body itself is the tank. And it isn't just the breath. The heart rate drops. Blood pulls back from the extremities and pools around the diving muscles. Non-essential organs switch off. The metabolism falls into controlled hibernation, burning just enough fuel to keep the dive alive and nothing more. This is the price of admission. A full, systematic redesign of every oxygen-dependent process in the body from the cellular level up. And all of that is just the commute. The real engineering starts when the whale reaches the bottom and has to find something to eat. The deep ocean has no light. It has no landmarks. As far as a mammal's normal sensory toolkit is concerned, it has almost nothing. A sperm whale's eyes are small, proportionally among the smallest of any whale. They are clearly not the primary instrument. At hunting depth, there is nothing for them to see. What the sperm whale has, instead, is the most powerful biological sonar system ever measured. The clicks begin in a structure known as the museau de singe, literally the monkey's lips, a set of phonic lips near the front of the skull. When the whale pushes air across them, they snap together and create a pulse of sound. That pulse travels backward through the spermaceti organ, the enormous oil-filled structure that occupies most of the whale's head, where it is focused and amplified. It then rebounds off a structure at the rear of the skull called the frontal sac and is projected forward into the water as a concentrated beam. Each pulse lasts less than a millisecond, but at its source, it can reach around 230 decibels. A jet engine at close range is about 150 decibels. A shotgun blast around 165. By human standards, those are already extreme sounds, painfully loud, physically overwhelming. A sperm whale's sonar is so much more intense that ordinary comparisons begin to fail. And the whale does not send out just one pulse. It releases trains of clicks, slow and deliberate while scanning, then faster and faster as it closes in on prey, much like a bat accelerating its echolocation during the final approach. In total darkness, the sperm whale is building a map made of returning echoes, updating it in real time, precise enough to track a squid hundreds of meters away. This is not a blunt instrument, it is a targeting system. There is also a more unsettling possibility. At this level of intensity, some researchers have proposed that the click may do more than detect prey. At close range, it could also disorient or stun it. This has never been conclusively proven. But the idea has persisted for a reason. Sperm whales hunt soft-bodied squid in total darkness, prey that cannot outrun them, but could easily evade a clumsy predator. This is the spermaceti organ's most likely primary function, an acoustic lens, and it occupies up to a third of the whale's total body length. Sonar solves only the first problem. It builds a map out of echoes, tracks movement in total darkness, and closes in on prey the whale cannot see. But finding prey is not the same as surviving the hunt. What makes this hunt worthwhile is squid. Mostly not giants, but medium-sized squid. Animals weighing 1 or 2 kilograms, caught one after another in the black water. A sperm whale may eat 800 to 1,000 kilograms of squid a day. Nearly a ton of soft-bodied prey, hauled out of a part of the ocean. Most predators cannot even enter. But the hunt is not easy. The prey fights back, and the whale pays a price for every successful descent. Sperm whales carry scars around the head and jaws, circular wounds, sometimes the size of dinner plates, pressed into the skin. These are sucker scars, left by the toothed suckers of giant and colossal squid, animals that can grow over 13 meters long and weigh more than half a ton. No human has ever watched this encounter unfold in the deep. We know it mostly from fragments, scars on whales, squid remains in stomachs, severed arms, torn tissue. But those fragments describe an encounter that almost nothing else in nature resembles. In complete darkness, two large predators collide. One hunts by sound. The other fights back with arms lined with hooks and serrated sucker rings. The sperm whale's sonar is so good that it can find prey hundreds of meters away in absolute darkness. But the deep ocean does not reward perception alone. Even when the whale wins the sensory battle, it still has to seize, overpower, and consume an animal large enough to injure it in return. So the hunt is not elegant. It is a one-breath pursuit at crushing depth against prey that may be soft-bodied but is not helpless. That is the tax the deep ocean charges. The whale pays it in energy, in oxygen, and sometimes in flesh. And still, it keeps diving. And if the body is the machine that makes this hunt possible, the next question is what kind of brain sits behind it? Now set aside the body for a moment. The sperm whale's brain weighs between 7 and 9 kilograms, the largest brain by mass of any animal that has ever lived, 5 to 6 times the mass of a human brain. An organ so expensive that simply keeping it alive demands a constant flood of oxygenated blood. And evolution does not build an organ like that for no reason. The obvious question is whether a brain this large makes the sperm whale smarter than us. The answer is almost certainly no. Intelligence correlates more with brain-to-body ratio than with raw size. But that is the wrong question to ask about a sperm whale. The real question is what kind of life requires a brain like this? The answer is not just hunting, it is society. Sperm whales live in matriarchal social groups, pods of females and their young, typically 5 to 20 individuals that stay together for decades. Males leave these groups as adolescents and live largely solitary lives, returning only to mate. The female pods cooperate in ways that are not merely social, but structural. They babysit. When a mother dives, a journey that may take 90 minutes, another female remains near the surface with the calf. They take turns, they synchronize, and they talk. Each sperm whale pod produces a distinctive pattern of clicks called a coda, a short, rhythmic sequence like a Morse code signature. These codas are not genetically inherited, they are culturally transmitted. Calves don't arrive knowing their pod's codas. They babble, producing disorganized, unstructured clicks for up to 2 years before they can reproduce the patterns reliably. They learn the way a human infant learns to speak, by listening, by failing, by trying again. Different pods in the same ocean use different codas. Different populations, separated by geography, use entirely different coda repertoires. Across the Pacific and the Caribbean, researchers have found that pods sharing a coda pattern tend to stick together, forming larger groupings called vocal clans. 2 clans can share the same ocean, swim through the same waters, hunt the same squid, and almost never interact. They are not different species. They are not separated by genetics. They are separated by the way they speak. This is culture in the strict biological sense. And maintaining culture learning dialects, coordinating babysitting across a dispersed pod, recognizing individuals by their click signatures, navigating social hierarchies over decades-long relationships, is exactly the kind of cognitive work that demands a large, metabolically expensive brain. The sperm whale did not evolve its brain for the deep ocean. It evolved its brain for each other. If this is the kind of untangling you came for, subscribe to World Untangled. There's more to come. A sperm whale's head is one of the most over-engineered structures in the ocean. It hunts, it floats, and it rams. In 1820, the American whaling ship Essex was hunting sperm whales in the South Pacific when a large male, estimated at around 26 meters, turned and rammed the ship head-on, twice. The first strike knocked the crew off their feet. The second stove in the bow. The Essex sank within minutes. The crew spent 90 days adrift. Some resorted to cannibalism. 8 survived. The account, written by first mate Owen Chase, became a sensation. 30 years later, Herman Melville read it and began writing Moby-Dick. And the Essex was not the only documented case. Whalers recorded multiple instances of large males deliberately charging ships, head first, with intent and accuracy. But how does a whale survive a 50-ton head-on collision with a wooden ship and swim away? The answer is in the architecture of the head itself. A sperm whale's skull is unlike any other cetacean's. The front of the skull is reinforced with dense connective tissue. And in front of that bone, filling most of the head, sits the spermaceti organ, that same massive barrel of waxy oil that focuses the whale's sonar. In a head-on collision, the spermaceti organ does what a car's crumple zone does. It deforms on impact. It absorbs the energy of the strike. It dissipates the force across its mass before any of it reaches the skull beneath. In 2016, researchers modeled the biomechanics of a sperm whale ram and confirmed it. The structure is built to take the hit, which means the same organ is doing 2 completely different jobs. When the whale clicks, the spermaceti organ is an acoustic lens, focusing sound into a beam, the way a magnifying glass focuses light. When the whale rams, the same organ is a shock absorber, a one-time impact buffer that protects the brain behind it. And there is a third job. Sperm whales control their depth, in part by warming and cooling the wax inside the spermaceti organ. Cooled, the wax becomes denser and the whale sinks more easily. Warmed, it expands and the whale rises. The same massive organ that hunts and rams is also a buoyancy regulator, a biological ballast tank that helps the whale move through 2 kilometers of water column on a single breath. 3 functions, 1 organ. So far, every chapter has been about the sperm whale itself, its body, its hunt, its mind, its head. But the sperm whale is not just an animal in the ocean. It is part of the ocean's plumbing. Every dive the whale makes, and every death it eventually undergoes, moves material between the deep ocean and the surface in a way almost nothing else can. 2 ecological jobs, performed by the same body in 2 different states. Alive, it is a pump. Dead, it is a foundation. Start with the pump. The surface ocean is starving for nutrients. Iron, nitrogen, phosphorus, all of them are abundant in the deep, 2 kilometers below, but the cold water there almost never mixes with the warm surface layer. And without those nutrients, phytoplankton, the microscopic plants that produce half of Earth's oxygen, cannot grow. The sperm whale solves the problem by carrying the nutrients across the gap. Every time it dives to 1,000 or 2,000 meters to feed, it absorbs the chemistry of the deep into its own body. When it returns to the surface to breathe, rest, and defecate, it releases that chemistry into the sunlit upper layer where photosynthesis can use it. A single whale, over a lifetime, can stimulate carbon capture comparable to thousands of trees. A whole population, swimming and surfacing across an ocean, measurably increases the productivity of the entire surface ecosystem. This is what biologists call the whale pump. Now consider what happens when one dies. When a sperm whale's body sinks, an event called a whale fall, it lands on the seafloor of the deep ocean, in a part of the world where almost nothing else falls. The abyssal plain is a desert. There is almost nothing to eat. A 50-ton whale carcass changes that for a century. Within hours, scavengers arrive. They strip the soft tissue first, sometimes within months. Then bone-eating worms colonize the skeleton, hollowing out the marrow. Bacterial mats grow over the bones, slowly metabolizing the calcium itself. Hundreds of species, many of them found only on whale falls, found nowhere else on Earth, feed on the body for 50 to 100 years. The sperm whale does not just survive the deep ocean. Alive, it connects the deep ocean to the surface. Dead, it feeds the deep ocean from above. It is not a visitor to the abyss. It is the infrastructure between two worlds. So what is a sperm whale? Not a whale that happens to dive deep. Not a marine mammal with a few unusual traits. A sperm whale is the most complete answer evolution has ever produced to a single, relentless question. What would it take to live, hunt, and build a society in the deepest, darkest, most hostile environment on the planet? The answer is not one adaptation. It is all of them at once. The sperm whale specializes in nothing. It pays the full price on every front: physiology, acoustics, cognition, social structure, ecological engineering, and somehow keeps paying it across a 70-year lifespan. The ocean asked an impossible question, and evolution, over tens of millions of years, answered it with an impossible animal. And here is the part we are still not ready for. We have mapped the surface of Mars in higher resolution than we have mapped the floor of our own ocean. We know more about the motion of distant galaxies than we know about what happens when a sperm whale reaches the bottom of a 2-kilometer dive. The largest-brained animal in the history of life on Earth hunts, sleeps, and speaks to its family in a language we cannot yet read, in a world we have barely entered. For 50 million years, the sperm whale has been answering questions about the deep ocean. We are only just starting to listen. If you want us to keep untangling the world, subscribe and tell us in the comments, of everything you just learned, what is the one thing about sperm whales you can't stop thinking about?